Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my official college football week number 12 upset alert picks, where I officially put teams on upset alert, beginning with Louisville. And how about this line? Louisville opened -2. Miami currently sitting 1.5-point favorites. I think we can all see this one coming from a mile away. Miami very likely to win this game. It's nothing against Louisville, but there have been some significant red flags with that football team, especially their game last week against Virginia, nearly losing. Although Virginia, to be fair, has been better recently. Still, this is not a Louisville team that has crazy talent. If you look at the roster comparison, Miami actually has far more talent in terms of recruiting. That doesn't mean they're going to win, but just in general, we will go Miami at home, 27-24. It feels like Louisville. They probably should have more than one losses. They're due for one, and they're going to get one on the road. That's a noon game, though. Maybe that's an ABC game. That would be my guess on the network. Next, we do have Arizona sitting basically a pick'em against Utah. Actually, I'm not even sure why I included this. It's impossible for this game to involve an upset because it's a pick'em. But yeah, I'll just give a quick summary. I do have Arizona. They've been trending. They're inside of the top 20 now. Utah, people are down on them. They lost last week to Washington. There's no shame in it, but still, they're sitting there with 3 losses now. Arizona, much more offensive potential, in my opinion, and they're also at home. This is like the biggest game for Arizona in a while, in multiple years. Being ranked, facing another ranked team, you're at home, you have a better offense. Should be a really fun one. I like Arizona to win that game outright. Next, we do have Tulane sitting -9.5, and at some point with Tulane, I mean, they've been so bad recently, they can't cover a spread. I tried last week with them and said, yes, they'll cover the 22-point spread against Tulsa, and they nearly lose the game outright. They won by 2 points. I think FAU, they're not great, but they're not terrible. At home, they could pull off an upset against a Tulane team who's a bit overrated. And guys, we don't need to see Tulane hogging up another New Year's Six bowl spot. And it's not like I have anything against Tulane, but let's understand the context. Tulane made a New Year's Six bowl last year. They've been terrible this year, at least the past 4 or 5 weeks. And are they really going to snipe their way into facing Penn State? We would rather see a team like Fresno State. We would rather see a great team like Air Force University get into a New Year's Six game because they would at least be competitive. I realized Tulane beat USC last year, but USC wasn't trying. I'm kidding, but, just in general, let's just get a new team in there. That's kind of how I feel about that. Next, we do have Illinois and Iowa. So how about Cooper DeJean possibly out for this game, injuring himself at practice? I think Illinois wins this game outright. Iowa just doesn't have a good enough offense, but I will say the one thing I really like in this game is the over. Iowa has been improving a little bit. Illinois, the backup QB, comes in, throws for 500 yards. I like Iowa. They're not terrible on the road. Illinois is due for a loss. Iowa gets an upset win. Kind of a field goal fest, but a higher scoring field goal fest. 21-18 there. Clemson sitting minus around 7, maybe 7.5, maybe 6.5 versus North Carolina. So this game is super wonky. Like, how do you even call this an upset? You have North Carolina, the team that's ranked, coming into this game as like a touchdown underdog to a team that's unranked. This reminds me a lot of the Notre Dame Clemson game. And I did say to take Notre Dame -3, and I was wrong. Maybe I'm just underrating Clemson again. But you know what? I originally liked Clemson. I said their analytics are good, but it just feels like a little bit too much here. All right, it feels a little too much. 7.5 is too steep. North Carolina, they only have 2 losses. They're playing for something. Imagine if Louisville loses, maybe they could get into the ACC championship. I think this game is closer, possibly an overtime game. It is 3:30. Should be a fun one. Clemson wins barely, but we do get the over to hit, and we do get a North Carolina cover. Next, we do have Washington and Oregon State. A lot of people taking Oregon State in this one. It's understandable. They are sitting right now 2.5-point favorites. I think I'm on an island. I'm going with Washington. Yes, believe it or not, even with the terrible analytics, I like them a little bit more in terms of their overall talent. Higher scoring game for sure. We love the over 56, and Oregon State's a very good team. They're lethal at home. This is a huge game on their campus for sure. But again, Washington, a little bit more talent. Michael Penix Jr. playing for the Heisman. We will hold steady and say that Washington sitting plus 2.5 at this point is decent value when it comes to that. And then the 8 o'clock game, same thing as last week with Texas. I am not loving Texas in this matchup. Texas could very easily lose it. I said that on Monday. Iowa State has an extremely impressive passing offense with a new quarterback. They're better. They're not like in years past. They can throw now. And Texas, they nearly lose to Houston a few weeks ago or like a month ago. They nearly lose to Kansas State. They nearly lose to TCU. It's going to happen one of these days. And Iowa State, they're not a top 25 team, but if you look at their analytics, they very easily could be. Even with all the losses that they've suffered, they have a very solid resume. So I will take a very close game. I do have Texas winning, but wouldn't surprise me at all if Iowa State pulled off the upset. And then coming to my parlays, you can see I like Wyoming at home against Hawaii. Boy, you would love to see a snowstorm in that game. Hawaii playing in a snowstorm. Yeah, I checked the weather. Unfortunately, this week it seems like a dud. It seems like basically every game is going to be at least into the 40s or 50s. Next week, we should potentially get some snow. That would be week number 13, the final regular season week. But, I mean, Wyoming, they're a solid team. They're at home. Although, I don't know, Hawaii, they've been playing a little bit better. We'll see. I do like the under in the Oklahoma at BYU game, the 10 a.m. game. Yeah. Well, actually, the time zones are weird in Utah. No, I still think that game's at 10 a.m. Very strange. But, yeah, we'll take the under in a morning game. Remember the Colorado game at 10 a.m.? What was it, Colorado versus USC? I think Colorado's had several 10 a.m. games. And then I do like Miami, basically in a pick'em versus Louisville. You've got to specify, Miami of Florida, not Miami of Ohio. Very important there. And then we do like Memphis, sadly against SMU. I'd love to see SMU make a New Year's Six Bowl. But Memphis, to me, they've got identical records. They're at home. I know SMU has really good analytics, but man, that's plus 8.5 for a team that has home field advantage with the same exact record. That's too good to pass up on for me. This next one, it's another 4-teamer. I'll take North Texas. I've always liked North Texas. They've got a really solid offense. Tulsa, I know they played well last week, almost won in an upset against Tulane. But I think North Texas can win that game. The over-under in that game is like 70. Virginia's been playing amazing. I'm taking them just to win outright against Duke. They're at home. Duke dealing with all the injuries with Riley Leonard. I will take Virginia to win that game. Have the momentum. We're taking the over 30.5. Illinois, Iowa. Everyone is against this. And really, you should be against this. It's kind of ridiculous to go in on the over in a game like that. Every Iowa game seems to go under. But at some point, you would think the law of averages, please save us. And then we will take Arizona, basically in a pick'em game, at home against Utah. In that one, and this is the final one, it is Oregon. So this game's been bet up like crazy. I think it was 21.5. It's at 24 now. Basically, what's happening with Oregon, Bo Nix is, I would say, the favorite to win the Heisman, and they've been juicing his stats, and they're going to continue to do that because Oregon, they understand, they're obsessed with branding. They are going try hard right now to get Bo Nix the Heisman. He'll be playing in the fourth quarter. They're going to try and score 50+, and if they do, they should very easily cover that spread. But everyone is going in on Oregon because we can all see that they're trying to run up the score to get Bo Nix the Heisman. The over, this game's been bet up as well. I loved the over 47.5 in the Ohio State-Minnesota game. It's up to 50. I'm guessing it's probably going to come back down slightly, but Minnesota's had a better offense recently. They've had good QB play. Ohio State, certainly Kyle McCord playing better last week. And it just seems like this game is due for an over. I could see Minnesota scoring 14, maybe 17 points. And at that point, the Buckeyes just got to get really into the 30s, which they could do, you would think, maybe the mid-30s. This over-under, I have no clue about. Florida, Missouri, I just think it's going to be a lower scoring game. 59's a crazy number to me. Yeah, I'll definitely take the under there. And then how about Air Force? Their season, it's completely gone off the rails. It's crashed. But we will take them against a very solid UNLV team. That's a good matchup. Air Force is only 3-point favorites, but we'll take them on the money line. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.